Let me introduce you now to a habit so simple, so subtle, that most men overlook it entirely, yet it is one of the greatest keys to success in selling and in life: the habit of observation. What does it mean? It means training your eyes, your ears, and your mind to see what others miss. It means noticing not just what people say, but how they say it, noticing what they do and what they don't do. It means becoming a student of the world, gathering clues, insights, and truths from every experience, every interaction, every moment. You see, most people go through life half asleep. They hear words, but they miss the meaning. They see faces, but they miss the emotions behind them. They walk through opportunities as if blind because they've never learned to truly observe. But the man who develops the habit of observation becomes powerful beyond measure. Why? Because he understands people better than they understand themselves. And in selling, that understanding is everything. You cannot sell effectively to someone you do not understand. You cannot inspire, persuade, or lead someone if you do not see them clearly. Here is the first lesson. Pay attention to the little things because they reveal the big things. For example, when you sit across from a client, observe: are their hands clenched or relaxed? Is their gaze steady or shifting? Do they lean forward when interested or back when doubtful? Do they smile because they feel good or because they feel nervous? These details tell you far more than their words ever could. And once you know how they feel, you know how to guide the conversation. But the habit of observation doesn't stop with people, it applies to everything around you. Notice trends in your business. Notice what products move and what products stall. Notice how competitors act. Notice where the crowd is heading and where there is a gap waiting to be filled. Most men wait to be told what's happening, but the man who observes closely already knows and moves before anyone else. Now, observation is not simply looking, it is studying. It is asking yourself, what does this mean? Why is this happening? What can I learn here? And how can I use it to serve others and improve myself? Let me give you a simple exercise to begin practicing today. When you walk into a room, pause. Look around. Who seems most confident? Who seems nervous? Where does the energy of the room flow? What is missing that you could provide? At first, this will feel unnatural. You may find yourself distracted or overwhelmed. But the more you practice, the sharper your mind becomes until observation becomes second nature. And then you begin to see opportunities where others see nothing. You notice the unspoken needs of your clients. You anticipate problems before they arise. You spot the opening in the market before it becomes obvious. That is the power of the habit of observation. It gives you an edge, quiet, invisible, undeniable. An edge that others won't understand but will feel. So today, commit to opening your eyes and keeping them open. Because the man who sees the most earns the most. And the man who sees clearly moves confidently while others stumble in the dark. That is where greatness begins, with the habit of seeing what others overlook. Now that you understand the power of observation, let me show you why it's more than just watching. It is an active skill, one that you must develop with intention and practice. You see, everyone looks, but very few actually see. The difference lies in the questions you ask yourself as you observe. And the better your questions, the sharper your observations become. Here's the first principle. Look beyond the obvious. Most people stop at what's right in front of them, the words someone says, the surface of a situation, the result everyone else sees. But the man who cultivates observation asks, what's beneath this? Why is this person saying what they're saying? What emotions are they hiding? What motives are they revealing even without realizing it? For example, a client says, your price is too high. The untrained man hears that and starts cutting his price. But the observant man notices the client's tone, the way his eyes linger on the product, the way his hands grip the brochure, and realizes the client isn't objecting to price at all. He's simply nervous about making a decision. And with that insight, the observant man addresses the real issue and closes the sale. Here's the second principle. Watch patterns over time. One observation may not tell you much, but repeated observations create a pattern you can trust. Notice how someone behaves under pressure, how they respond when things go wrong, how they act when they think no one is watching. That's when people reveal who they truly are, and knowing that gives you an unmatched advantage. The third principle is this: observe yourself as closely as you observe others. Yes, you must study yourself, your reactions, your habits, your triggers, because often what you don't see in yourself limits you more than anything others do. Ask, how do I come across when I speak? Do I listen more than I talk? Am I projecting confidence or hiding insecurity? What signals am I sending without even realizing? This self-observation will help you eliminate weaknesses and sharpen your presence, making you more effective in every interaction. And here's the fourth principle: observe the environment. Every situation has its own rhythm, its own unwritten rules, its own opportunities waiting to be claimed. When you walk into a room, don't just notice the people. Notice the energy, the mood, the layout. Is the space inviting or cold? Is the conversation tense or relaxed? Who seems to hold the power? Where can you contribute to improve the atmosphere? Now, let me caution you about something. Observation is not about judgment, it's about understanding. Do not use what you notice to belittle others or inflate your ego. Use it to serve, to solve problems, to meet needs others have yet to recognize. Because here is the reward. The man who masters observation moves ahead quietly, almost invisibly, yet consistently. While others rush in blindly, he moves deliberately. While others react, he responds. While others miss opportunities, he creates them. So make observation a daily discipline. Don't just see, study. Don't just hear, listen. Don't just notice, understand. Because the more you observe, the more you know. And the more you know, the more powerfully you can act. That is the habit of observation, and it will set you apart from the crowd every single time. Now let's go one level deeper into the habit of observation, because it is not just about collecting information. It is about turning what you observe into actionable insight. You see, many people notice things, but they never act on what they notice. They see the warning signs of a problem, but do nothing. They catch a glimpse of an opportunity, but let it pass by. They hear what a client is really saying between the words, but ignore it because it's uncomfortable. But the man who truly masters observation understands this. What you observe means nothing until you use it. So how do you turn observation into power? First, develop the habit of asking, what does this mean for me? When you notice a pattern in someone's behavior, ask yourself, how does this help me serve them better? How can I adjust my approach to meet their unspoken needs? For example, you're pitching to a client who keeps glancing at his watch. An untrained salesman ignores it and keeps talking. But you, because you observe, realize he's in a hurry. So you adjust, you cut straight to the point. And because of that, you earn his respect and often his business. Second, use observation to anticipate. Don't wait for problems to explode in front of you. If you notice tension building among your team, address it early. If you see a competitor making a bold move in the market, adjust your strategy before they leave you behind. The man who can anticipate rather than simply react always appears more confident, more prepared, and more trustworthy. Third, use observation to personalize your approach. Every person you deal with has a unique personality, a unique set of desires, fears, and priorities. But most salesmen treat everyone the same and fail. You can do better. If you notice your prospect lights up when you talk about results but seems bored when you talk about details, you know to emphasize outcomes over data. If you notice they smile when you mention security but frown at the word risk, you know how to frame your offer. These subtle adjustments often make the difference between a no and a yes. And fourth, use observation to build trust. When people feel that you see them, truly see them, they feel valued. When you remember their spouse's name, when you notice the frustration they're trying to hide, when you acknowledge the effort they've put in, they sense your respect. And respect builds loyalty faster than any discount or gimmick ever could. Here's what you must never forget. Opportunities do not shout. They whisper. And only the man who has trained his eyes, his ears, and his heart to notice will hear them. Observation, by itself, will not make you successful, but it gives you the map. And the map shows you where to step next, where to avoid danger, and where to find the hidden treasure others walk right past. So today, practice this. Pause before you speak. Look before you act. Listen before you answer. And ask yourself, what is really happening here? What can I do with what I see? Because the man who sees clearly and moves wisely wins while others wonder what happened. That is the advanced power of the habit of observation. Not just noticing, but understanding and acting with precision. Now let's explore a truth about observation that will surprise you, yet it may be the most valuable lesson of all. Observation is not only about others, it is about yourself. Yes, while it is vital to notice what others think, feel, and do, it is equally vital to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Because you cannot lead others effectively, you cannot sell convincingly, you cannot succeed sustainably if you do not first understand yourself. Most men never learn to observe themselves. They live their lives on autopilot, reacting instead of reflecting. They wonder why others don't trust them yet. They never notice the tension in their own voice, the insecurity in their own posture, the doubt in their own words. Here is the key. You can only project confidence, clarity, and trust if you first see and correct what's happening inside yourself. So how do you observe yourself? First, watch your body language. When you speak, are your shoulders slumped or straight? When you listen, do your eyes wander or hold steady? Do you fidget when nervous? Every gesture you make speaks louder than your words, and you must learn to hear what your body is saying. Second, listen to your tone of voice. Record yourself speaking if you have to. Do you rush your words when you feel insecure? Does your tone rise when challenged? Do you mumble when you're unsure of what you're saying? A calm, measured tone communicates confidence even when you're nervous inside. Third, monitor your emotions in real time. The observant man notices when anger is starting to rise and chooses to breathe instead of explode. He notices when fear starts to whisper and chooses to move forward anyway. He notices when pride begins to swell and remembers to stay humble. Fourth, reflect on your choices at the end of each day. Ask yourself, where did I shine? Where did I stumble? What can I improve tomorrow? This quiet, daily inventory allows you to make adjustments before small flaws become big problems. And here's something even more powerful. When you observe yourself honestly, you develop empathy for others. Because when you understand your own doubts, your own mistakes, your own blind spots, you become more patient with theirs. This is what makes a great salesman, a great leader, and a great man. Not perfection, but awareness. Awareness of what is happening inside and outside of you, moment by moment. So here is your challenge today. Start paying attention not just to the room you walk into, but to the man who walks into the room. Notice what he projects. Notice what he feels. Notice what he says when no one else is listening. Because when you can observe yourself with the same sharpness you use to observe others, you become unstoppable. The man who knows himself cannot be shaken by the opinions of others, cannot be blindsided by his own habits, and cannot be defeated by ignorance of his own weaknesses. That is the final gift of the habit of observation. It teaches you not only to understand the world, but to master yourself within it. Now let me show you how the habit of observation becomes your silent advantage, the one that others may never see, yet one they will always feel. You see, observation gives you power in every kind of situation, even when no words are spoken. It allows you to enter a room and immediately sense the mood. It allows you to meet a man and instantly know whether he is confident or bluffing. It allows you to watch a client and understand what he truly values, even when he's saying something else. This is why the most effective salesmen, negotiators, and leaders often seem almost psychic. People say, how did he know exactly what to say? How did he know when to stop talking? How did he know when to close the deal? But it's not magic. It's observation. And it's available to you if you are willing to train your senses. Let me give you a few examples of how observation gives you an edge. When you're negotiating, watch the other person's body language. If he leans in, he's engaged. If he crosses his arms, he's defensive. If his foot points toward the door, he's thinking about leaving. All of these signs tell you how to adjust your approach. When you're presenting, watch the energy of the room. Are people nodding or glazing over? Are they leaning forward or checking their phones? Do they light up when you mention certain benefits but go cold at others? This tells you where to focus your pitch. When you're interviewing someone or being interviewed, notice what topics spark enthusiasm and which ones make them uncomfortable. This shows you where their priorities truly lie and where their fears live. Even in casual conversation, observation reveals opportunities. You notice the worn cuff on a man's shirt and realize he values hard work more than flash. You notice a wedding ring but no mention of family, and you sense there's a story there that may influence how you build trust. But here's the secret. You can only pick up on these subtle clues if you quiet your own mind long enough to pay attention. Most people don't observe because they're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next. They miss the signals right in front of them because they're trapped in their own heads. So here is your assignment. When you're with someone, be fully with them. Listen not just to their words, but to their pauses. Watch not just their eyes, but their hands, their posture, their breathing. When you do this, you'll find that people open up to you more. They feel understood. They feel seen. And people always trust and buy from the one who makes them feel understood. So remember, observation is not about being clever or manipulative. It's about caring enough to really see people as they are and then meeting them there. The man who observes deeply speaks less but says more. He moves more slowly but wins more quickly. He seems quiet but commands the room. Because when you know what others don't even know about themselves, you hold the advantage without ever raising your voice. That is the subtle strength of the habit of observation. Practice it daily, and soon you will see what others miss. Now let me show you something truly remarkable about the habit of observation, something that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Observation allows you to spot opportunity where others see nothing at all. You see, opportunities rarely announce themselves with trumpets and flashing lights. They almost never walk up and say, "Here I am, take me." Instead, they hide in plain sight, disguised as problems, complaints, unfinished work, or something too small to matter. And the man who has trained himself to observe sees these hidden opportunities while others walk right past them. Let me give you an example. A client complains, "We've tried everything, but nothing works. Everyone keeps making the same mistake." Most salesmen nod politely, feel sorry, and move on. But the observant man notices what they keep overlooking, the small detail that no one thought to fix. And when he points it out, he doesn't just solve their problem, he wins their business and their loyalty. Or imagine you're at a meeting where everyone is arguing over the big picture. You notice the quiet man in the corner who says very little but takes careful notes. You strike up a conversation afterward and discover he's the real decision maker, the one whose approval everyone needs. That single observation could change the entire outcome of your pitch. The man who observes deeply sees opportunities in conversations others ignore, in ideas others dismiss, in gaps others fail to fill. Here's how you can sharpen this ability. First, train yourself to listen for problems. Every complaint, every sigh, every sentence that begins with "if only" is a clue to a need you could meet. Listen carefully and ask yourself, what can I offer here that no one else has thought of? Second, watch where others hesitate. When people say something can't be done or isn't worth it, don't take it at face value. Ask yourself, why not? What would it take? Could I be the one to figure it out? Third, study patterns over time. If you notice something that keeps happening, missed deadlines, unhappy customers, a product no one seems to understand, that's not just a problem. That's an opening. Fourth, pay attention to the invisible players. So often, the people everyone overlooks hold the real keys to influence. A receptionist who knows everyone's schedule. An assistant who hears every complaint. A quiet manager who makes the final call behind the scenes. By noticing and respecting these individuals, you often unlock doors others don't even know exist. And finally, trust your intuition, but back it up with observation. Sometimes you feel there's an opportunity, but you can't quite explain it. Don't ignore that feeling. Test it by watching closer, asking smarter questions, digging deeper. Because here's the truth. Opportunity almost never looks like opportunity at first. It looks like work. It looks like risk. It looks like something beneath your notice. But the man who trains himself to observe and act turns those hidden chances into triumphs. So make this a habit. Walk through your day with your eyes and ears wide open. Notice what others dismiss. Study what others ignore. And when you find the door everyone else has missed, don't hesitate. Step through it. That is how observation becomes profit. And that is why the man who sees more earns more, not because he is lucky, but because he notices what others never even knew was there. Now, let's uncover another powerful benefit of the habit of observation, one that influences not only your sales and business, but also the quality of your relationships and reputation. Observation helps you make people feel understood. You see, every man and woman you meet carries within them an invisible sign that reads, "Notice me, understand me, value me." Most people go through life feeling unseen, as though no one really pays attention to who they are, what they feel, or what they need. And here's the opportunity for you. When you develop the ability to truly observe others, to notice what matters to them, what worries them, what excites them, you give them something rare. You give them the gift of feeling understood. And once someone feels understood by you, they trust you. Once they trust you, they listen to you. Once they listen to you, they buy from you, not just once, but over and over again. Let me explain how you can use observation to make people feel this way. First, notice their words, but also their silence. Pay attention to the things they avoid saying, the pauses between their sentences, the sighs they don't think you hear. Sometimes the most important information comes not from what is said, but from what is left unsaid. Second, notice their environment. When you visit someone's office or home, look around. Are there family photos, trophies, books? Do they keep things neat or cluttered? These little details tell you about their priorities, their personality, their story if you care enough to look. Third, notice how they respond emotionally. When you mention certain topics, do their eyes light up or darken? When you suggest an idea, do they lean in with curiosity or fold their arms in resistance? These reactions tell you exactly where to focus your efforts and where to tread lightly. Fourth, notice the effort they put in. Everyone wants to feel that their hard work is recognized. When you compliment not just the result, but the effort you show them, you've really been paying attention. And that kind of acknowledgement is remembered for a long time. Finally, notice what they value most. Some people crave security. Some crave recognition. Some crave freedom. If you watch and listen closely, you'll see which of these drives them, and you can shape your message to align with their deepest need. Now, here is the most important part. When you observe someone, do it with genuine respect and curiosity, not as a trick, not as a way to manipulate them, but as a way to serve them better. Because people can feel the difference. They can tell when you're only pretending to care, and they can tell when you really see them. When they sense that you truly see and understand them, they lower their defenses. They open up, and they begin to trust you not just as a salesman, but as a person. And that, my friend, is how lifelong clients, partners, and friendships are built. One careful observation at a time. So remember, your ability to notice, to understand, and to value others will determine the depth of your influence and the size of your success. The man who makes others feel seen will always stand above the crowd, not because he demands their attention, but because he gave them his. That is the quiet power of observation. It connects you to the hearts of others. And in the end, those connections are the most valuable asset you can ever build. Now, let me show you one more profound way. The habit of observation transforms your life. It makes you a student of everything. Most men stop learning once they leave school. They think education ends when the diploma is handed out. But the man who observes knows this truth. Life is the greatest classroom, and observation is the way you take notes. Every day, everywhere you go, everyone you meet has something to teach you if you're paying attention. When you walk down the street, what do you see? Do you notice the way people carry themselves? Do you notice which shops are busy and which are empty? Do you notice which advertisements catch people's eyes and which they ignore? These little observations, so simple, so often overlooked, are the seeds of wisdom. And they're free for anyone who cares enough to look. Here's why observation keeps you growing when others grow stale. First, it keeps your mind active. When you watch, listen, and ask, you force your brain to make connections. You start asking, why does this work? Why does that fail? What could I do differently? This curiosity is what sparks innovation and progress. Second, it keeps you humble. When you observe others, you realize how much you don't know, and that's good, because humility keeps you open to learning. It reminds you that no matter how much you've accomplished, someone else may have a better way. Third, it gives you perspective. When you truly observe the struggles and triumphs of others, you begin to see that your own problems are not as unique or insurmountable as they seem. You gain patience, empathy, and wisdom that no book alone can give you. And fourth, it prepares you to adapt. The man who observes trends in people, markets, and behaviors can adjust before anyone else even realizes change is coming. That agility gives you an advantage others can't understand because they weren't paying attention. Now let me give you a practical exercise to develop this even further. Every evening, write down 3 things you observed during the day that taught you something. They don't have to be dramatic. It could be noticing how a colleague diffused an argument with humor, or how a customer reacted to a certain word you used, or how people flowed through a store, which areas they avoided, and which they crowded into. When you do this day after day, you train your mind to notice more and to learn from what you notice. Here's the great secret. There are no wasted experiences for the man who observes. Even your failures, if you observe them closely, become teachers. Even your enemies, if you watch them carefully, can reveal your own blind spots. Even boredom becomes an opportunity to study what others ignore. So don't just live your days, study them. Don't just meet people, learn from them. Don't just work your job, understand what makes it succeed or fail. Because the man who observes is always growing, always improving, always discovering opportunities to serve better, earn more, and live more fully. That is how observation becomes not just a habit but a way of life. And that is why those who master it never stop rising. Now let me show you how the habit of observation protects you not just from failure, but from repeating the same mistakes over and over again. You see, one of the most costly errors men make is this. They fail to observe what went wrong. They fail to learn from it. And so they stumble into the same traps again and again, wondering why nothing changes. But the man who trains himself to observe carefully turns every setback into a stepping stone, because he notices what others miss and adjusts. Here's what that looks like in practice. You make a sales call and it falls flat. Most men walk away blaming the client, blaming the product, blaming the day. But you, because you observe, replay the moment in your mind. What did their expression say when you mentioned price? Where did their tone shift? When did they stop leaning in and start pulling away? By noticing these cues, you learn. You change your words, your timing, your approach, and next time you succeed. Or you launch an idea and it fails. Most people throw up their hands, call it bad luck, and move on. But you ask, what signals did I ignore? What feedback was right in front of me that I didn't want to see? How did the market respond, and why? This kind of reflection is observation applied to yourself. And it is the difference between a man who grows wiser with every failure and a man who simply grows bitter. Here are a few principles to help you observe your own missteps effectively. First, pause and review. Don't rush past failure. Sit with it for a moment. Look at it from all sides. Ask yourself, what really happened here? What part did I play? What signals did I miss? Second, seek patterns. One mistake can be random, but when the same kind of mistake happens again and again, that's a pattern. And a pattern is a lesson begging to be learned. Watch for it. Third, welcome feedback. Sometimes you're too close to see clearly, so ask others what they observed. Ask clients, colleagues, mentors, what did you notice that I didn't? You'll be surprised at how much insight you gain simply by being willing to listen. Fourth, adjust and test. Once you've observed and learned, don't just store that knowledge away, apply it. Change your approach. Try something new, and observe the results of that. This is how progress happens, one careful observation, one deliberate adjustment at a time. Here's what you must understand. The man who refuses to observe blames the world for his failures. The man who observes carefully takes responsibility, and in doing so, takes control. Because every failure carries a message. It speaks quietly at first. It says, look closer, pay attention, learn from me. And the man who listens and learns never truly fails at all. So the next time something goes wrong, and it will, do not turn away. Do not cover your eyes. Open them wider. Look carefully. Find a lesson hidden inside the loss. Because the man who observes his failures as closely as his victories becomes unstoppable, not because he never falls, but because he never falls the same way twice. That is how the habit of observation protects you, and why the man who notices what others ignore always rises higher in the end. And now we come to the final and perhaps most rewarding lesson about the habit of observation. Observation turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. You see, most men sleepwalk through life. They wake up, go through their routines, speak their words, do their work, and see nothing new. Every day looks the same to them because they stopped paying attention long ago. But the man who has trained himself to observe never lives the same day twice because he notices what others miss. He sees beauty where others see boredom. He sees opportunity where others see routine. He sees lessons where others see nothing at all. This is not just a skill, it is a way of living. When you walk into a room, you notice who sits where and why. You notice how the light falls, how the mood shifts, how people move toward or away from one another. When you meet someone, you notice the way their handshake feels firm or hesitant and what that tells you about their confidence. You notice how they dress, the words they choose, the way they listen or fail to. When you walk through your day, you notice which stores are busy and which are empty, which streets hum with energy and which feel lifeless. You notice the trends before they become obvious because you were paying attention while others were asleep. And over time, this habit shapes you into a man of vision. While others are surprised by change, you anticipate it. While others are blindsided by problems, you prepare for them. While others complain about lack of opportunity, you seize it because you saw it coming before they even knew it was there. But observation gives you more than professional advantage, it gives you joy. Because life becomes richer when you really see it. The smile of a stranger. The pride in a colleague's eyes after a job well done. The quiet determination of a client deciding to take a risk. The small victories no one else notices but you. And this habit does something else too. It earns you respect. People begin to trust you because they feel that you get them, that you see them for who they really are. They feel valued in your presence. And that, my friend, is a rare and powerful gift. So here is my final challenge to you. Commit to observing deeply, fully, daily. When others rush, slow down. When others talk, listen. When others look without seeing, watch closely. Because the world is whispering its secrets all the time, to the man who is awake enough to notice. And the man who notices not only earns more, achieves more, and influences more, he also lives more. That is the ultimate power of the habit of observation. It transforms not only what you do, but who you are. And it ensures that you never ever stop growing. So open your eyes, stay awake, and watch. Because everything you need to succeed is already in front of you, waiting for you to see it.